there, tech leaders. Welcome to Control-Alt-Delete with Lisa Duerre Live. I'm Lisa Duerre, your guide through the ever-evolving landscape of leadership in tech. We're breaking down barriers and bringing our community together in real time. So whether you're tuning in from the comfort of your office chair or catching the replay later, please know that your voice matters. Speaking of voices, that's what firm leadership is all about. Listening, inviting wisdom, and embracing the collective intelligence of our teams. Because let's face it, no one leader has all the answers. And that's where you come in. As we dive into today's discussion, please be an active participant. Drop your thoughts, questions, and insights into the comments below. This isn't just my podcast, it's ours. Together, we're rebooting Leadership Drive. And before we kick things off, I'd like to mention that this podcast and live stream experience is brought to you by RLD Group. As your host and the CEO of RLD Group, I'm grateful for the opportunity to collaborate in bringing this podcast to life. Together, we're committed to empowering organizations, teams, and leaders like you, and your engagement in this conversation is invaluable. So without further ado, let's jump into the conversation, get comfy, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's make some magic happen. Hello, everyone. Let's make some magic, shall we? Welcome to Control-Alt-Delete with Lisa Duerre. I'm your host, Lisa Duerre, and I'm very excited to be here today with you to talk about the topic of exhaustion at work, tired teams overcoming challenges. For those of you that are here with us live, if you want to drop in the chat, what's the reason you said yes to this topic? Why are you here today? And what do you hope to get out of the conversation around tired teams? I want to inform our conversation today with your voices as well. So drop that into chat. And let me go ahead and introduce our guests today. So I'm thrilled to bring back Alenka Znidarsic and Rachelle Niemann to the stage. They are collaborators with me at RLD Group, and they also have their own businesses. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts of talking about tired teams is how might we resource each other and collaborate so that it's not all on one person. Rachelle and Alenka, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, Lisa and Rachelle, for this conversation.
Oh my gosh, you are so welcome. And let's jump in. So let's throw a stat up here first, just to level set the playing field for all of us. We have a statistic here that I think you're not going to deny, but you're also going to be like, what? So 33% of US employees were engaged at work, according to a 2023 poll. The low well-being doesn't just drain performance, it costs national organizations $1.9 trillion in lost productivity. And this is from Gallup and WorkHuman. And the reason I want to start with this statistic is I think people are tired, people are exhausted, teams are just pushing through, and people aren't talking about this. So today we're going to talk about it, and not just talk about it, but we're going to bring to you some real life examples, some things you can actually practice right now in your world without it feeling like it's too much. So Rachelle, let me start with a question for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Let me just look at my notes here. So the thing I want to ask you about is, could you share a personal story where intuition played a pivotal role in leadership? And the reason I want to start with intuition is it's part of firm leadership, right? It's the I. And intuition is often missed when we're exhausted and we're overstressed. And I just really respect your opinion in this and the lived experience that you have. So would you mind sharing some insight on intuition and navigating this exhaustion we're all feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. Intuition can be sort of hard to grasp sometimes, especially we're in such a brain-focused society, and it can be easy to lean into wanting our brain to have all of the answers without kind of listening to our own intuition. And I know I've struggled with that in the past, and especially when I'm exhausted, I kind of go into a state where my brain really wants to steer the ship and it tries to drive for certainty and tries to find quick and easy solutions when that isn't always the best case scenario. And I know now that when I am exhausted, I'm not very creative and I am challenged in brain thinking, even though my brain wants to be in charge. And so because of this self-awareness, I've learned to pause, kind of comfort my brain, let it know that it doesn't have to do all the work when I'm in that state, and kind of tune in so I can more deeply listen and hear my intuition. And that allows me to practice more intention and curiosity and openness. And a lot of times when I'm feeling tired, if I know I had a rough night of sleep before, or I'm just not feeling my best, I'll try to allow for more time and space to process things, to get to more time, because it does take me more time to think things through and feel things through when I am in the state of exhaustion. And something that happened recently that I'll share, we did a co-creation event for the RLD Group Collective, and the role I was invited into in leadership there was a little bit, beyond my comfort zone. And so my brain was really in its anxious tending state. And when I am in that state, I like to have all the answers and not bring other people's perspectives in. But there was one part of the event design that I really knew I needed help on. And I felt myself avoiding that topic when I was in a crucial meeting in this event design. And I paused and I breathed. And then my intuition kind of really pushed me. I do have an active intuition, luckily, but it felt like it really pushed me right to that spot. And I went there and I said, this is the part I'd really like your input on. And so when we take those moments to pause and slow down so that we can hear and pay attention to those nudges of our intuition, rather than the overactiveness of our brain, then magic can happen. And that event was highly elevated because of that person's input and perspectives in that part of the design.
When you're talking about this, I think the thing that I really want to double click on was when you said that you were feeling resistance and stuck, but you wanted to solve a problem and you wanted to keep it to yourself. How cool that you had this knowing, what you're calling intuition, right? Like, I need to put this on the table. I need to bring it forward. It's going to be okay. I'm not going to be judged. It's all good, right? We can work together. And I think it's a reminder to me and everyone listening that sometimes you feel it in your body first, right? You feel a resistance, or you're just shutting down, or you're physically experiencing this exhaustion mindset, which is, it's all on me. I got to get it all done. So I really appreciate that reminder, Rachelle. And I wholeheartedly agree that the way you designed that experience for RLD Group was a game changer. And I'm so glad you listened to, sometimes people might call it your gut, but there was an inner knowing or inner feeling. And I think that's important in today's leadership realm, that we listen to ourselves, not just the thoughts, but what our body's telling us, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Alenka, I want to turn to you for a second, because one of the things that I know in firm leadership, when we talk about mindfulness, it's not as simple as go take a yoga class. That's not what mindfulness is when you think about leading in exhausting times and with teams that are just so fatigued from change. I'm curious about your thoughts on mindfulness and how that is a role in being more resilient. How does mindfulness infuse people and leaders and teams and organizations to be resilient and deal with the change fatigue that they're in right now?
Oh, thank you, Lisa, for this challenging question. I am an engineer, and I work with engineers and tech, and the word mindfulness doesn't really click to them.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you start talking to them about the mindfulness, they see it sometimes as a somehow of woo-woo word, buzzword that they don't really associate with it. However, it's so much brings so much value when the teams are exhausted. And what I see, it's really important to find the right wording first when you are a team leader or you are a leader in an organization. Sometimes the word pausing, just pause, or intentional break really sounds better with the engineer. Mindfulness is something around intentional break that you are taking from your screen, from your work, and doing something else. And what I experience when I work with the organization in the market, it's really about bringing intentional practices in the work. One of the examples I experienced lately was in the coding software engineering company, when the engineers, they are tied with the project deadlines and continuous development circles. So they introduced mindful coding breaks. They didn't call it mindful coding breaks, just coding breaks. And they implemented intentional practices where the engineers were encouraged to take short breaks during intense coding session and to engage in the guiding exercises. They even provide a special place with a really green color where they can move and do this exercise. And what I really like about it is they encourage teams to go outside and have a short meetings outside in the park or in the nature. So that's it. It's very simple. Go outside, take a breath, and stay away from coding. Or another organization, they introduce tech detox breaks. So invite everyone to take these breaks from technology, from computers, or from just having a conversation with a friend. Again, they don't call it necessary mindfulness, they call it intentional breaks. And they name it tech detox breaks. It's something fun, creative, so everyone is happy to do that work. And what I like about those examples is that those examples are small, simple, intentional breaks. They are fun and they are relatable to the tech companies and engineers. There are two success factors that those two works. Is first, they have to be really guided top down from the organization or encouraged down top. So everyone should be a role model in that, doing that. Like a team manager should make sure that he's or she's doing that the same and inviting team members to do with them. So he or she is the first one modeling this practice. And then I have examples where the organization, they take it more to the organizational level. One good experience was when the company introduced mindfulness starting and ending the meetings. So every meeting starts with a small exercise for the breath or just focusing exercise or just taking a short pause before they start a meeting. And it was ingrained in organizational structure. So every meeting, the structure is really defined with those exercises. And also they are training people to do that more. And that also means engaging individuals to do that more and bringing that into the culture. It's really important that those practices are starting by the leadership, and the leadership, it is a model for the employees in the organization.
Alenka, oh my gosh, like how much practical, actionable things are here. First of all, engineers don't think of mindful. They think of like coding breaks or tech detox. And we have a comment here from Susan. Susan loves the idea of a tech detox. Susan is someone who works in our organization as well and has her own organization. She's the HR leaders coach. And Susan, I bet the HR leaders that you work with, I know the ones we work with together, they want the tech detox too, right? It's too much. So thank you for bringing your voice in. I'd love to invite anyone else who wants to share an idea or something that you do as a leader in your organization around mindfulness. And while you're dropping those chats in here, because this is our podcast, right? Rachelle, I want to turn it to you for a second because, in firm leadership, we've got flexible, intuitive, resilient, and mindful, and they flow in and out together, right? As we're looking at how to navigate change fatigue and the exhaustion that everyone's feeling. And I think I want to ask you personally, because this is something I know near and dear to your heart. What do you do? What tips do you have around maintaining resiliency and flexibility amidst this change fatigue and exhausted state that most people are in? What are some tips you have?
Yeah, I think part of it is that self-awareness of identifying when you do feel exhausted or overwhelmed or anxious, and just admitting. Part of my own practices of resilience and staying flexible are admitting that I am exhausted, I am tired, and things are going to take a little bit longer than they typically would. And like just admitting that can be such a help in me being able to show up, because when we are tired, when we are exhausted, we aren't as resilient and we aren't as flexible. It's just not as easy when we're in that state. And so a lot of times I have to invite myself to breathe and be really, really intentional about taking breaks to breathe, because I also forget to do that when I'm more tired than not. So breathing is a big one. Nice, long, deep breaths. I know I can just do 3 of them and get myself into a better state. Sometimes I'll put on like an instrumental binaural beats or something really calming. I do have an anxious tending brain, so something that will lower my frequency is something that is helpful to my nervous system. And so I'll put on some calming music or binaural beats, something that helps bring down my frequency from anxiety to a more steady state. And if I can, like I said earlier, I try to allow for more time and space to do things, to get things done, to think more thoroughly, and also remembering that I'm not alone. So, inviting other people's perspectives in and ensuring that what I'm bringing forward makes sense, because I know it may not be my best work when I'm in that exhausted state. And I think leaning into questions helps me find the flexibility as well, rather than seeking the answers. My brain is always trying to drive for certainty. So looking at questions rather than answers helps me bring that loop back to flexibility and resilience. But I'm also curious for you, Lisa, what shows up for you maintaining resilience and flexibility when you're leading your team and clients?
Yeah, thanks, Rachelle. I really appreciate the concepts that you're talking about: self-awareness, taking the 3 deep breaths, remembering that you're exhausted, so asking for help or another second set of eyes. It inspires me. So for me, one of the things that is hard is even calling myself resilient. Like, even owning that title, like, as like, "Oh, I'm resilient today." No, I'm like, I got through the day, right? So I'm noticing more about the thoughts I'm having and the energy around them. And when I'm feeling closed down or stuck or judgy, I can be judgy, right? Or opinionated, strong opinions. The first thing I try and do is remember that that's probably an indicator that I'm not at my best. And so what might I do in that moment to simply open myself back up and get back into curiosity? One of my favorite books that really helps me stay in that is this Conversations Worth Having. You could probably tell. I mean, everyone knows I talk about this all the time, but one of the things is, through an appreciative lens or a life generating lens, it's energizing for me. And I find it to be really, really helpful. What I'm noticing in our clients right now, and for those of you in the audience, chat in here too, but there is this extreme pressure for getting the work done with less resources and faster than ever before. And I can't believe I'm saying that, because I already know what this feels like, but it is exponentially pressure cooker. And even yesterday, in 2 different client calls I had, I think what we're doing in this exhausted state is forgetting how resilient we can be and what we can do. Like, it's almost like we give our power away or our thought process away, that it's just going to be this way. This is just how it has to be. And so when I find myself thinking like that, whether it's for myself or with a client, I try and remind myself that, is that really true? Is there another way to look at that? And so I work a lot on reframing my lens on which I'm looking at a problem, even to how might we turn this around or take it to a different level, or structuring my day. Sometimes I even look at, are my meetings energizing, and is there enough space in between them? So, Rachelle, I appreciate the question really very much, because I think we're all here with it. Let's see, Susan. Oh my gosh, thank you. So one of my clients hosts wellness days several times a year where they take the same day off. Oh, and they're sharing their results on Slack. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen this in some of our clients as well, Susan. Thank you for sharing that. Alenka or Rachelle, anything you want to comment on that? The combined wellness day, in my opinion, it works if you don't do the work and you're actually working on yourself that day. Like, don't give a wellness day and then expect people to check their emails.
Right.
But Rachelle, Alenka, comments on that? Thank you, Susan.
I think it's brilliant. And I think part of what can get us in that habit of, or thinking of like it's always going to be this way, is we don't have that opportunity for a break. And we're just showing up day in and day out, doing the same thing over and over. But when we can step away from our work and get those breaks, it can give us a whole new perspective, a whole new reminder, and that ability to reframe that, oh yeah, things aren't always going to be this way, or they don't have to be this way. So I think that's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, Susan.
Yeah, Alenka, how about you?
I love that the companies brings creativity in, because every company, just with a feeling and the culture in the organization, they can introduce a lot of different ways how to bring mindfulness. And intentionally, like I am in Colorado, and whenever it is a snow day, like the last 2 days, the kids, they stay at home, they play in the snow, they shut out the companies many times. You can see it as intentionally wellness day. Yesterday I was on the road and nobody was there, everybody was home. And the kids, I saw a lot of kids just being without technology playing outside. So it's a lot, many times being aware where you live and what are your opportunities for those activities and what is the culture. The culture is also very important when you think about what are the practices that you are introducing to the organization.
Yeah, I love this so much, picturing all the kids playing in the snow, right? It's like, oh yeah, children remind us, play. Like play is being in your body and in the world, and actually will help you be more generative at work. So thank you for that. There's something that I was thinking about when you guys were talking. A couple of weeks ago, RLD Group did we called it Pause and Power Up. It was a burnout prevention workshop for HDI, the San Francisco Bay Area chapter. And then a few weeks before that, we did something for a sales team to kick off their new year, very similar, burnout prevention and well-being. And I'm so inspired by leaders that we're working with right now, because they're actually saying, hey, we need this. We need to talk about it. And so for the HDI chapter, we started off with, talk to us about stories of burnout. When have you experienced it? What did it look like? And in the tech company that we did the burnout prevention and well-being, we started off with, when are you at your best and when are you at your least effective? And then we started as a team, as this group, with talking about, I show up closed, or I show up open, or I'm playful. And I just want to invite us all to just stay curious, to know that we know more than we think about what this exhaustion is doing to us. And you can tell what's happening. And if you are willing to open up even the conversation with your team, or a direct report, or a trusted colleague, what I know to be true is that when you feel less alone, you're usually less exhausted. So I just want to play with this for a minute here and see what comes to mind, Rachelle, when it comes to just connecting. And I know we talk about modeling, but this is literally like, hey, I'm not at my best today, and when I'd rather be here. Or our scavenger hunt experiences, or anything in between you've seen us do, you've done with us. What do you think is important to share in this conversation right now?
One of the things that comes to me is, that not aloneness can make a huge difference. And just like the slightest little thing that you might hear a friend or a colleague or a group member say can change your perspective in an instant. I had an experience like that yesterday, and it changed my whole day. And also, I think giving ourselves time to reflect on questions. So rather than just throwing a question out and expecting everybody to answer it immediately, giving ourselves the gift of pausing to reflect before we actually jump in to answer a question, I think can be a great gift. And it can also spark conversations, like when you want to talk about feeling exhausted, or saying that you're tired. You might even notice that you're tired in that moment of pausing and reflection. I think pausing has come up a lot today. So I think that's an important thing to look at, is how often are we pausing in between tasks or before we answer a question, and how they might be used intentionally and mindfully to allow for more flexibility and resilience.
Yeah, thank you. I think this conversation we're having right now is important for leaders, just to see what's possible in their orgs. And I know, Alenka, when you look at things as an engineer, with your PhD, and as well as looking at, the broader organizational piece of this, what do you want to say, or what's something people could be thinking about right now to just have this less aloneness? and really being intentional with, I guess, honoring the fact that people are exhausted, not just skipping over it and getting right to work. What thoughts come to mind for you, Alenka?
I would say three things. The first is that we have to be aware that the culture that we are living in, especially engineering culture, is very tough. That some values they were created through the time, and they really respect the deadlines, continuous innovation, and not, as I would say, putting people in front of technology. As a leaders, be aware that the people are the ones that create innovation, and they bring innovation to the world. It's not that we would have innovation without it. So we have to recognize first that the people are important, and that exhaustion is true. It's happening in that world. The second thing is, as an individual, having courage to really look in ourselves. And the second thing is communicate that. The first one, the courage, I know as a being in engineering world, and I was living from my analytical side, I didn't give myself permission to really talk about my exhaustion, because I need to do the work. I have to go up to the leadership career, and I need to be successful. That was my perspective. And the second thing is the space. So the leadership has to think how to define or how to organize the space or safety that the people are able to speak. And when we talk about intentional taking Sunday break off, I was thinking whenever it's snowing in Colorado, then people, the leaders, even in tech, they will go skiing. And this is the culture. However, the second thing, if you communicate that in time and why you need that, and really given somehow reassurance that this will not impact the work that you do. Mm-hmm. That's about communication and trust. And that's everything, how the changing will come with the really small steps, because it's a very complex problem. It's from individual to the system in organization, that everything has to change. Like we have to become more used to talk about that. And organization and the leaders more providing a safety space to be able to have this conversation. Like I heard that the tech spaces are dense spaces, that they recognize this challenge, but they don't give opportunity to speak about that.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that forward and just, presencing the dynamic that's going on and what needs to happen. And, one of the things I don't think that I know a lot of people that are leading organizations and teams that want to say, yeah, we're all exhausted. I think there's this whole, like, we're busy. We're so busy. And before I burnt out, I definitely wore the badge of honor of I was busy. Like exhaustion was like the goal because you gave it all. You left it all on you left it all on the field, right? But every day like that, there's no way you can be your best. And I think one of the things I just want to invite everyone to think about is, what's one thing you can do today to just even give yourself 15 minutes of just thinking time, where nothing else is going on. It's so important. Oh, and look at this. Yeah, Susan, are we in cahoots or what? Thinking time is especially appreciated, right? I think about the introverts on the teams, or the people with chronic illness that aren't talking about it, or people that are caregiving and they're worried about somebody at home. You can't be all on all the time because there's stuff running in the background too. So if we can create a little space for ourselves and in our meetings and in our projects, it's a game changer, and you'll actually get more results better and faster. So listen, thank you all for being here today. Rachelle and Alenka, thank you for informing this conversation. Susan, thanks for participating in the chat and bringing your wisdom in. If you are listening to this live, thank you for being with us. If you're listening to the replay, we're glad you're here too. And if you want to bring this conversation to your organization or come to work with us in a firm leadership lab, we'd love to have you. We are running firm leadership labs free to our community to give you a sense to actually experience the facilitation and guidance that we can give you on this topic. So go ahead and sign up here to be notified of our next one. And until next time, thank you for being here. Rachelle and Alenka, always a pleasure. Make it a great day, everyone. And that's a wrap, folks. Whether you're here with us live for the reboot or caught the replay to upgrade your leadership drive, I want to say a big thank you for being a part of this experience. Your input and energy are what keep us going strong. But hold on tight, this isn't where the journey ends. Let's keep the momentum going by sharing your thoughts in the comments, spreading the word on social media, or dropping me a message. I'm all ears and ready to connect. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button or ring the bell so you don't miss our next episode. If today sparked something for you, your likes and comments mean the world. They help us reach more leaders like yourself and prevent burnout. Together, we're not just leaders, we're firm leaders, upgrading our drive and rebooting our leadership game one episode at a time. Oh, and one more thing. If you're interested in bringing this valuable discussion to your teams or organization, RLD Group is here to lend a hand. Reach out via LinkedIn or email hello@rldgroupllc.com. We'd love to chat. Until next time, this is Lisa Duerre signing off with a virtual high five and or a virtual fist bump, whatever you choose. Make it a great day, everyone.